tonight on First at 9 this Saturday the 22nd of August 2026. Final cadence. Sri Lanka bids farewell to the voice of the nation, veteran singer Dr. Nanda Malini. Desperation. Suresh Saleh's wife urges President Anuradhisa Nayaka not to extend her husband's detention order. Returning Saleh to CID custody critically threatens his ailing health, warns Saleh's wife. Too hot to handle. Sri Lanka's worsening dry spell devastates crops. Water, food and energy security under threat. 97% chance of a severe El Nino extending to April next year, warns the authorities. Shine bright. Rumesh Taranga shines bright at the 2026 Diamond League meet in Lausanne, Switzerland.
ගමටත් කිරි රටටත් කිරි ඕෂණයෙන් පිරි සූරිය කිරි.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9 on the Derana News channel. I'm Aditya Edirisinghe joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Brought to you by the only Sri Lankan media network to rise to the pinnacle across all media platforms. Recognized as the best by every survey and beloved by the people. Now your top story tonight, after enriching the tapestry of Sri Lankan music for 7 decades with her timeless voice and insightful perspectives, Visharada Dr. Nanda Malini, revered as the voice of the nation, bid farewell to the nation today, leaving thousands of admirers who cherished her voice mourning the loss. Her final rites were held at the Boralla General Cemetery this evening, sans ceremonial proceedings as set out in her last will.
රටටම නැති වුණේ අපිට නැති වෙන්න ඕන නැති කෙනෙක්.
අපි තරුණ කාලේ එතුමියගේ පළවෙනි ගීත අපිට අහන්නට ලැබුණා. අපි එතුමියට එතුමිය පැතු නිවන් සුව ලැබේවා කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා.
ඒ නිකම්ම කලාකාරණයක් නෙමෙයි. ජාතික සම්පතක්. ගායන ගීත, කිඳුන්න පණිවිඩය, ඒකෙන් ජනතාව අවදි කිරීම මම හිතන්නේ මෑත කාලේ කිසි කෙනෙක්ට ඒ වගේ දෙයක් කරන්න පුළුවන් වුණා කියලා.
අපි රණවිරු හැටියටත් එතුමියගේ ආශිර්වාදය ලැබුණා. එතුමිය ගීතයක් නිර්මාණය කර රණවිරුවන් වෙනුවෙන්
නන්දා මාලනිය පැතු ඒ අපේක්ෂාවන් අය ගීතයෙන් මිනිසුන්ට ආමන්ත්‍රණය කළපු ආරාධනා කරපු ඒ ආරාධනාවන් මල්පල ගැනීමලා තියෙන වෙලාවක තමයි ඇය දැන් සමුගන්නේ.
Long queues of admirers.
අපි රද තියෙන එක මතක් කරන්න. ඒ වගේම එතුමිය කරපු ඒ සේවය තව ඉදිරියට ගෙනියන්න. රටට පාඩුවක්.
නන්දා මාලිනියන් කියන්නේ උරුමයක්. ඒ උරුමය කවදාකවත් මේ සමාජයෙන් ඉවත් වෙන්නේ නැති බවට මට විශ්වාසයි.
ආම්බෙන් හරි මාතින් ඈට ගීතයක් ලියවුණා ඒ කාලේ පිපුණු බලේරෝ කියන ගීතය. මගේ දුවයි පුතයි දෙන්නම පිටරටවල ඉඳන් මට කියලා ඒවල තිබුණා. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ සංවේගය ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා. මොකද ඒගොල්ලන්ට මතකයි බාල සන්ධි නන්දා ගාවට ආපු.
යුණු මනුෂ්‍ය සිතීමක් වෙත අපව රැගෙන යන්නට ඇය විසින් කරන ලද්ද සම්ප්‍රදානය අති මහත්.
තරා යුගයක මේ රටේ තරුණයන්ගේ හදවතට ආමන්ත්‍රණය කරපු කලාකාරණයක්. ඉතිහාසයේ මතක තියේවි සියලු දෙනාම ඒ පිළිබඳ අගය කරා.
2000න් පස්සේ ආපු සංගීතයේ ඇය හරි උපේක්ෂාවෙන් තේරුම් ගත්තා. අපිට හැමතිස්සම ඒ ධෛර්යය දුන්නා. කවදාවත් ඇය අපිට පවසලා නැහැ අධෛර්යමත් දෙයක් හරි ඉතරි දෙන දෙයක් කවදාවත් ඇය විසින් ප්‍රකාශ කරලා නැහැ.
මගේ පළවෙනි චිත්‍රපටය පසුබිම් ගායනය කරලා තියෙන්නේ නන්දා හන්තානේ කතාවේ. යාළුවෝ මාත් එක්ක දවස් ගානක් කතා කරන්න පුළුවන් ආයද මට අවවාදයක් එහෙම ගන්න පුළුවන් කලාකාරයද ඔක්කොම නැති වෙලා ගිහලා ගාමිණී ෆොන්සේකා විජේ කුමාරතුංග 30 වයසේකර නම් 20ක් කියන්නේ නම් 20න් 18ක්ම නැහැ. ඉතින් මේ තව එක්කෙනෙක් කියා.
පවතින ඕනෑම රජයක අඩුපාඩුව දැක්කාම ඒක සංගීතය තරම් මිනිසුන්ගේ හිත වලට කාවදින්න පුළුවන් වෙනත් ක්ෂේත්‍රයක් මම දැකලා නැහැ. ඒ වගකීම ගායිකාවක් වශයෙන් ඉෂ්ට කරපු ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ අති දක්ෂ කලාකාරණයක්.
Late Dr. Nanda Malini's religious rites were conducted at 10 this morning.
වසරක විශිෂ්ටත්වයේ අභිමානය People's Leasing විශ්වාසයේ ප්‍රමුඛයා.
In other news, the dry spell over Sri Lanka's northern, north central, eastern and Uva provinces continues to escalate, decimating harvests, threatening lives and hurting sustenance of flora and fauna. Making predictions, the top brass of the country's weather office places the chances of a severe El Niño condition at 90%, with a 97% chance of these conditions extending to April next year. If these predictions come true, Sri Lanka will have to brace for potential shortages in food, water and energy next year. Extremely arid weather conditions continue to overwhelm the north, north-central, eastern and Uva provinces, with acute shortages of water threatening human sustenance and the lives of flora and fauna. Worsening the scarcity of water, volumes of reservoirs including Kudailu Pukanniya, Makitchava and several others in Katupotha have depleted to extremely low levels. Meanwhile, 30 of the 70 acres of paddy being irrigated by the Sembukulama tank in Thirappane have fallen prey to brown plant hoppers, small plant-eating bugs, common in crop fields. Aggrieved farmers complain that pest control has been rendered impossible by the arid weather conditions and gusty winds. Meanwhile, farmers cultivating yellow cucumber in Indigahava Thirappane also face dire constraints as water remains increasingly elusive. Farmers warn that a persistent shortage of water may destroy the whole harvest. Severe aridity impedes agriculture and public life within the Polonnaruwa district too, with residents of Ratmale Min area being particularly aggrieved. Crop cultivations in the area have been threatened by the lack of rainfall in months. Meanwhile, 72 families living in Kitullutuwa Paranagama within the Polonnaruwa district face a severe shortage of drinking water. According to reports, crops cultivated on residential property including guavas and lime have been completely destroyed by the water shortage. As the persistent drought decimates Sri Lanka's agriculture and threatens lives, the special cabinet subcommittee appointed by the president to address the evolving El Niño condition met at the presidential secretariat yesterday for a round of discussions with the pertinent government officials. According to international predictions, temperatures have risen by about 3 degrees in the eastern Pacific. This puts the probability of an extremely severe El Niño condition at 90%. There is a 97% chance that this condition could continue until April next year. In the Sri Lankan context, we expect low rainfall in September. We predict above average rainfall within October, November and December. Thereafter, rains will drop from February to April. During this time, rainfall will be far below the average. Therefore, the most challenging conditions will hit Sri Lanka between February and March next year.
පානීය ජල අවශ්‍යතාවය සඳහා මේ ජලාශ වලින් සපයන පානීය ජල අවශ්‍යතාවය සපුරා ගන්න පුළුවන්.
දැනට පුළුවන්. දැනට ගැටලුවක් නැහැ.
ඒ කියන්නේ අපිට මේ සති මාසයක් පුළුවන්.
මේ මාසයට පුළුවන්. මාස නෙමෙයි අතර මාස දෙකකට විතර ප්‍රමාණවත් ජලය තියෙනවා.
අඛණ්ඩ විදුලි සැපයීම හදන්න අපිට ප්‍රශ්න මතුවෙන්නේ.
Electricity generation will only be threatened during February, March and April next year. The Minister of Energy has had pertinent discussions to resolve the issues and the energy shortfall that will arise during those months. We must target a 5% surplus in energy. We need to encourage farmers to cultivate crops that require less water.
අඩු වතුර ප්‍රමාණයක් පාවිච්චි වෙන භෝග සඳහා වැඩි දිරිගැන්වීමක් යන්න වේ.
ගොවි ජන සේවයකටත් යෝජනා කරලා තියෙනවා සමහර වෙලාවට ඒ කියන්නේ වැඩි අස්වැන්නක් දෙන ප්‍රදේශවල වී වගාව අස්වැන්න වැඩි කරන්නත් තවදුරටත් අඩු ඵලදායීතාවයක් සහිත ඉඩම් අතිරේක ආහාර භෝග වගාවට යොමු කරගන්නත් තමයි දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව සැලසුම් කරලා තියෙන්නේ.
අපි හිතන්නේ මේක දැන් අපිට එන්නේ.
We don't foresee much of an issue this year. However, if a drought hits Sri Lanka from February to March next year, the next Yala season will be marred by several issues. Thereafter, the food supply chain will take a hit during September or October next year. We need to be mindful of these matters. We must plan accordingly.
යාඩියා T5L සතුට පෙරුණු දිගු ගමනකට.
Welcome back. Now, as the government prepares to present the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution Bill, representatives of the Free Operations Centre say NPP MPs should vote against the bill, reminding the government that this is not the system change the country yearned for. Meanwhile, a total of 13 petitions have so far been filed before the Supreme Court, challenging the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution Bill.
13 petitions have been filed with the Supreme Court so far, challenging the constitutionality of the 22nd Amendment, which seeks to extend the retirement age of Superior Court judges. As politicians across the aisle debate the legality and the potential consequences of the key piece of legislation, the Free Operations Centre met former Speaker of Parliament Karu Jayasuriya yesterday afternoon to brief him on the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution Bill.
These comments are directed at all NPP members. Did you toil so hard to elect a government that takes such arbitrary decisions? Do you agree with these arbitrary decisions taken by President Anurukumara Dissanayaka? You need to really think about this matter. After some reflection, you can vote against this bill once it is presented to Parliament. Your vote will be a vote of protest, one that says that this is not the government we voted into office. You can remind the government that this is not the system change we yearned.
Several politicians too shared their thoughts about the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution.
We have presented the 22nd Amendment Bill to Parliament. This amendment is necessary at the moment. While fulfilling our duties, we see structural weaknesses. How long do you think land cases in court take to end? I can confidently say that it will take more than 10 years. Through the 22nd Amendment, we seek to extend the retirement ages of Supreme Court and Court of Appeal judges by 2 years. Can anyone here tell me how that impedes judicial independence? We need legislation to raise the standard of living, not the 22nd Amendment. People have been pushed from bad to worse. This is not what the people expected. They wanted more economic support by way of facilities and subsidies. However, some today can't even feed themselves 3 meals a day. So the 22nd Amendment shouldn't be the priority. There is much more to be done. Governance is not a playtime activity. We need to expedite matters pending in court for over 15 to 20 years. To that end, we have begun reforms on all fronts. As part of such efforts, we will extend the ages of all judges by 2 years. We don't need to push people into retirement when they turn 60, since life expectancy has reached 76 to 77 years. We can utilize the experience of our few judges by 2 more years. We are on board with the 22nd Amendment, which seeks to expedite all lawsuits and punish all wrongdoers. We have never opposed such reforms. Our problem is that the people who trusted the government have been rendered helpless today. Those who voted for the government suffer in hunger, while certain graduates remain unemployed. Some suffer with a shortage of medicines at hospitals. We won't oppose any amendment as long as these concerns are first addressed. If a crime has occurred, fair probes must be sanctioned. We have never opposed it. We have always appeared when summoned to submit statements, even if they are pointless. However, politics that resorts to mudslinging, rumors, character assassinations, vilification, and politics that incites hate and anger is indeed very unappealing. Such political practices are unsustainable. This is the government's current predicament.
තිස් වසරක විශිෂ්ටත්වයේ අභිමානය People's Leasing විශ්වාසයේ ප්‍රමුඛයා.
Manuri Saleh, the wife of former State Intelligence Service Director, retired Major General Suresh Saleh, has urged President Anurukumara Dissanayaka not to extend her husband's detention order, citing his critical health condition. In a letter to the President, she has stated that removing him from specialized medical care and returning him to CID custody could pose a serious threat to his life, while assuring full cooperation with any lawful investigation. Through a letter dated the 20th of August, former State Intelligence Service Director, retired Major General Suresh Saleh's wife Manuri Saleh pleads the President to not extend the detention order against her husband any further. Citing a critical cardiac condition, Saleh's wife instead urges the President to place her husband in remand custody. According to the letter, Manuri Saleh says that her husband was transferred to the National Hospital on the 7th of June after he launched a hunger strike protesting his detention under the PTA and the conditions of his incarceration. Since then, Suresh Saleh has remained under the care of specialists attached to the cardiology unit of the National Hospital. Manuri Saleh claims that her husband had to undergo a cardiac surgery to implant a cardioverter defibrillator on account of serious impairment to his heart condition. According to Manuri Saleh, Suresh Saleh is extremely vulnerable at the moment and requires close, continuous and specialized medical monitoring and attention. In her letter to the President, Manuri Saleh asserts that under such conditions, any further extension of the detention order as well as any attempt to remove Suresh Saleh from the medical environment of the National Hospital and his consequent return to the custody of the Criminal Investigation Department could pose an immediate and serious threat to his life. She therefore requests the President to not extend the current detention order once it expires. Manu Risale further states that neither the husband nor any member of his family has any intention of obstructing, delaying or interfering with any lawful investigation, and that they are prepared to extend their full cooperation and assistance to any investigation conducted in accordance with the law. The 88th Medical Clinic in the series organised by the Derana, the Social Responsibility Amada Derana Media Network, was held today at the Bogaswava Salavanodhyarama Viharaya in Vaunia. Today's Derana Medical Clinic series focused on the early detection of kidney disease, with Leeson's Hospital Ragama serving as the main sponsor. As part of the medical clinic, blood glucose and cholesterol tests, lung examinations and dental clinics were conducted, while free spectacles were also donated to those in need. In collaboration with Derana, Gender Innovations also conducted for the first time in Sri Lanka a series of tests aimed at early detection of heart disease. Additionally, essential equipment was donated to expectant mothers, while sports equipment was provided to students of 4 schools in the province with the sponsorship of Loves Eco Shri Limited. IIHS Institute of Higher Education, Cipla Aqua Live Water Filters, George Stewart Health, Vision Care Hearing Solutions, Mendol Brand, Loves Eco Shri Limited and Gender Innovations also contributed to the event. The Layman's Committee of the Bogaswava Salavanodhyarama Viharaya and the Shakya Putra Foundation provided organizational support for the medical clinic. The final Kumbal Perahara of the historic Kandy Asala Perahara will parade the streets of Kandy today, marking another major highlight of the annual religious and cultural festival. The procession commenced at the auspicious time of 6:28 p.m. The fourth Kumbal Perahara was held yesterday, beginning at the auspicious time of 6:40 p.m. The sacred relic casket was carried by the ceremonial elephant Pulatisiraja during yesterday's procession. Meanwhile, TV Derana launched a special green initiative aimed at maintaining Kandy as a polythene and plastic-free zone throughout the entire Perahara season. For more local news, join us on the other side of this short commercial break. Welcome back. Now with that, here's a look into other key developments around the island in brief.
The National Aquatic Resources Research and Development Agency says fish harvests in Sri Lanka's territorial waters have been gradually declining, with the trend observed since 2014. Chairman of NARA, Professor Sanath Hettiarachchi, says this is a common threat affecting marine ecosystems not only in Sri Lanka but also in many countries around the world. He added that the situation did not arise suddenly, noting that a decline in fish harvests in Sri Lankan waters has been observed since 2014. The NARA chairman said no single cause has so far been identified for the decline in fish harvests, although changes in the marine ecosystem are considered a major contributing factor. Professor Hettiarachchi noted that it has not yet been established whether the current El Niño conditions are affecting the situation, adding that there is no confirmation that Sri Lanka has been directly impacted by the phenomenon. He said that if the situation continues in the long term, attention has turned to directing fishing communities toward alternative employment opportunities to help secure their livelihoods. Meanwhile, a 3-year-old child succumbed to injuries sustained after being run over by a tractor in the Murasumote area of Kilinochi. The incident occurred yesterday when the deceased child and his brother were reportedly playing on the trailer of a tractor parked at their home. At the time, a relative had started the tractor and attempted to turn it around within the yard while the children were still on the trailer. Police said the child fell from the trailer and was subsequently run over by the tractor's rear wheel. The child, who sustained serious injuries in the incident, was rushed to the Kilinochi District General Hospital, where he later passed. The driver of the tractor involved in the incident has been arrested. Further investigations into the incident are underway under the supervision of the Kilinochi police. In other local news, the Navy recovered the body of a man caught in a coral reef in the sea area of West Dumaladeniya, Venapur early this morning. Venapur police stated that the Navy was alerted after a belt found tied around the body's waist raised suspicions that the recovered remains may be those of the sailor who went missing following the recent Dwara vessel accident off the coast of Angulana.
In your business news, trade talks between Canada and the United States failed last night, reigniting the North American trade war, with Ottawa vowing to match Washington's tariffs. despite hopeful statements from both sides that a deal would be struck to avoid 50% US tariffs on a raft of Canadian goods locking in at the midnight deadline. The talks faltered, with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney saying the neighbours could not reach an agreement to meet their objectives. Trade negotiators had been engaged in intense talks since July after President Donald Trump threatened to impose a 50% levy on nearly 20 billion US dollars of Canadian imports by August 19th. Trump had temporarily paused those tariffs earlier in the week, saying the two sides were close to signing a trade deal that was very good for both countries. In your world news, Turkey said that it would seek an Interpol red notice for the arrest of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as part of a domestic criminal case linked to an attack on activists seeking to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza. NATO member Turkey has been one of the fiercest critics of Israel's assault on Gaza and has previously issued domestic arrest warrants for Netanyahu over the war there. However, Israel denies those charges. In May, Israeli forces opened fire on at least two vessels from the global Sumud flotilla sailing towards Gaza as it was making a renewed attempt to deliver aid to the enclave after earlier missions were intercepted by Israel in international waters. In a post on X, the Turkish Justice Minister said arrest warrants had been issued for Netanyahu and another suspect on charges that included genocide, crimes against humanity and torture as part of a case against 35 people over the Israeli interception in international waters. The United Nations Security Council conducted its second non-binding straw poll in the race to select the next UN Secretary-General, with Guyana's Ambassador Caroline Rodriguez Burkett emerging as the front-runner ahead of 7 other declared candidates. The other candidates are Senegal, Ecuador, Chile and Uganda. Currently, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has been in position since 2017, but his second 5-year term ends on December 31st. Foreign media further reports that the next Secretary-General will face the challenge of maintaining the standing of the United Nations, which has been reduced in recent years due to its inability to prevent or end conflicts and crises around the world, including Israel's genocidal war in Gaza and the Russian invasion of Ukraine. In your sports news, Sri Lankan javelin thrower Rumesh Tharanga brought glory to Sri Lanka yet again by securing another victory at the Wonder Diamond League 2026 in Switzerland. Sri Lankan athlete Rumesh Tharanga secured first place in the javelin throw event at the 2026 Diamond League meet in Lausanne, Switzerland, recording an outstanding throw of 88.14 meters. Tharanga completed alongside Olympic gold medalist Neeraj Chopra of India and Olympic bronze medalist Anderson Peters of Grenada. Tharanga recorded a throw of 85.99 meters in his first attempt. However, India's Neeraj Chopra surpassed him with a throw of 88.05 meters in his second attempt. Undeterred, Tharanga produced a throw of 88.14 meters in his third attempt, securing victory in the Lausanne leg of this year's Diamond League Athletics Series. Neeraj Chopra finished second, while Grenada's Anderson Peters took third place with a throw of 86.69 meters. With this victory, Rumesh Tharanga also secured qualification for the final of the 2026 Wanda Diamond League. That's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.